Hello, this is Tommy Franks. Welcome to the 4-Star Leadership Podcast, a product of the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute and Museum. We're here to get a view into the lives of the legacy makers, the movers and the shakers of today, to offer insights from the full spectrum of the leadership community. We'll talk to former 4-star students and explore their leadership development path. We'll work to find out what they are about today and learn from the opportunities they've made for themselves in this world. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this podcast. Remember, leaders are not born, they're developed.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Core Principles of Leadership with General Tommy Franks. I am your host, Delise Travis, and we are on episode number 16 with our special guest, U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn. We'll be talking about giving back more than you take, but before we get into our program, we'll have a word from our major sponsor, REI Oklahoma.
REI Oklahoma is proud to be a part of the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute in the production and distribution of these podcasts, designed to inspire leaders and difference makers. At REI Oklahoma, we have been working with small business leaders, entrepreneurs, and people who are driven to succeed for years. Highly motivated people working to own their own businesses, live in their own homes, and make the world a better place. Since its beginning, REI Oklahoma has continued to identify hurdles and deliver holistic solutions to create job growth and help neighborhoods thrive in both rural and urban communities. REI Oklahoma looks forward to visiting with you about helping your business and community grow. Visit reiok.org or call 800-658-2823 to start the conversation.
The Labar family is a fourth-generation Oklahoma family. That may not sound like a long time, but our grandfathers were born here, within the Comanche Nation, before the land runs. We are the proudest sponsor of the Tommy Franks 4-Star Leadership Podcast. We hope listeners will heed the words of these distinguished men and women who have served our country at the highest levels and across all walks of life.
And now we join our guest, Senator Marsha Blackburn. Marsha Blackburn is currently serving her first term as a U.S. Senator for the state of Tennessee. Blackburn's public service is dedicated to promoting opportunities for women and making America a more prosperous place to live. Marsha's leadership philosophy is based on her experiences in the private sector as a small businesswoman and author. Marsha began honing her entrepreneurial spirit in college as a first female associate for Southwestern Company selling educational textbooks. Later, Marsha became director of retail fashion and special events for the Kastner Knott Company. Marsha founded her own business, Marketing Strategies, which focused on the retail marketplace as well as electronic and print media. Her career in public service began in 1995 when she was named Executive Director of the Tennessee Film, Entertainment, and Music Commission. In 1998, she was elected to the Tennessee State Senate. In the state legislature, she earned a reputation for fiscal responsibility and government accountability by identifying waste and offering realistic solutions to Tennessee's budget challenges. Marsha led a statewide grassroots campaign to defeat a proposed state income tax. The tax was defeated, and Marsha's leadership earned her a reputation as an anti-tax champion. In 2002, Marsha was elected to represent the people of Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, based on her record in the state legislature. She brought her Tennessee values to Washington, D.C., and became a leader in the fight for small, efficient federal government that is accountable to its citizens. She is a member of numerous charitable organizations and is an active member of her church, Christ Presbyterian. Marsha and her husband, Chuck, live in Williamson County, Tennessee. Marsha's full bio and information can be found at blackburn.senate.gov. Hello, Senator Blackburn. Thank you so much for joining the 4 Core Principles of Leadership with General Tommy Franks today. We really appreciate your time and that you're willing to be with us today.
And I am absolutely delighted to join you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the good work that you are doing.
Well, thank you. I can say that it's a very fulfilling position to work with the young leadership students that we do, and I know that your story will be very inspiring to them. You're currently serving your first term as a U.S. Senator for the state of Tennessee. And what I'd like to do is start out at the very beginning, where you started out life and where you're from, your family, brothers and sisters. Can you start us out there and share that story with us?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to do that. My parents were both parts of big families. My mother had 10 brothers. She was the only girl. And wonderful parents who were my grandparents, lots of uncles and aunts and cousins always around. My brother, sister, and I have an older brother, a younger sister, and we just had such a fun time growing up. It was rural South Mississippi, and living on a farm, working on a farm, having the opportunity to grow up in that environment is something that I really treasured. My parents were always very involved in the community, and they would say, give back more than you take, always give back more than you take. And it was important to be a contributor and a giver, not somebody that just showed up looking to say, how much can I get from a situation? And then they would also say, and they taught us to leave things in better shape than we found them. And that is important for us to, whether it is an area where we work or where we live, or relationships that we have, or organizations that we belong to, that we should always be striving to leave that in better shape. And that carried over into our community life. And my parents were involved in the political process, never ran for office, but supported candidates. We were always involved in campaigns, and we knew what it was to support candidates and to encourage people that were in elective office.
What a great start. And that really tells us, and I know our listeners, a story of how you got involved in politics. And that was one of my questions, how your interest began in politics. So because of your rural family lifestyle, you had a lot of people around all the time, which is wonderful, and there's nothing better than lots of family support. So you got involved in 4-H in your rural area?
Yes, my mom had been, in 1944, my mother won the President's Trophy for outstanding achievement in 4-H, and she was honored at the National 4-H Club Congress. So she was active during World War II. She worked with the Extension Service in Florida, where my dad was stationed, and she thought, and she knew firsthand the contribution that could make to opening doors to young people, to helping to expand their horizons, and to really help to expand their worldview. So we were very involved in different 4-H club projects, and I loved that. You learn how to keep a record, you learn how to organize, you learn how to do public speaking and presentations. And for me, this was a great opportunity and something that otherwise would not have been available to me.
That is obviously a wonderful start in life, and what a great mentor your mother was. I think mentors are such an important part of our life. And you also mentioned that your father was stationed. So did he serve in the military for any time?
He did. He was in the military. This was during World War II. And then after he came out of the military. They came back to Mississippi, and that's when they decided to return there to Laurel, Mississippi, where I grew up.
So you went to school and you were very involved in 4-H and you got a scholarship to Mississippi State. Is that correct?
That's correct. And in 4-H Club, you would keep a record book of the things that you were doing, your participations and your achievements. And in doing that, you would put your record book into the fair in your county, and the top ones would go into a state competition and then into the national 4-H club competition. And I won a national scholarship in 4-H when I was a senior in high school. And of course, that was what I used as I went to college my freshman year. Also, my brother was 2 years older than me, and he was he was selling books in his summer job. And I thought that sounded like a fantastic summer job. And my dad was in sales, and I loved sales. And I wanted to do the summer job my brother had, which was working on straight commission, selling books door to door. And we found out the company did not hire women. All of the sales teams were male. But we talked them into letting me sell books. I had to work by myself, live at home. I couldn't work on the sales team with the boys going to another part of the country. So I worked there at home and sold books, and then the next year pulled a team together, and that's how I ended up working my way through school. But it's so important, I think, for young people to grab every opportunity and every open door that is presented to them. That is how they're going to be able to grow their experiences and build that equity in themselves. Just like you build equity in a small business, you build it in yourself, which is your skills and your experiences and your God-given talents.
That is wonderful advice, and I can see where your 4-H experience gave you the confidence to meet people and present yourself and present your ideas. And I think it's a great story. What kind of books was it? Wasn't it the Southwestern Company? What kind of books was it that you sold?
Yes, it was educational books, and then we developed a cookbook and sold a cookbook, and that cookbook, the Encyclopedia of American Cooking, is still in print.
Oh, that's really great. That's something to be really proud of. So what was your degree? What was the major that you declared when you went to college?
I was in merchandising and marketing, but that was in the Department of Home Economics for girls over in the College of Agriculture, even though most of my classes were in the business school, and which is always, I've had a lot of fun with that, as you can imagine, yes, saying that I came out of the College of Agriculture. But I still serve on the board for the advisory board for the business college there at Mississippi State, where I went to school.
That is truly a great story. So your first position out of college was in the director of retail and fashion?
Well, actually, my first position was a sales manager for the Southwestern Company. And I did that until my husband and I married. He was also with Southwestern. At that point, they had a nepotism rule, and the company could not have spouses working for the company. So I had to leave my job, and that is when I interviewed to be the director of retail and fashion events for the Kastner Knott Company. And I was the youngest division head in all of Mercantile's stores. Mercantile was the company that owned the Castner Knott Company, which was a group of 13 department stores located in Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama.
So you brought a great amount of experience through everything you had done to that point to that position, and I can see how that was a great position for you at the time.
It was a great position for me, and I had a wonderful mentor. The CEO of the company was a wonderful man named Ralph Glassford, and he knew that I was young, that I had experience that many people much older than me did not have. But what a wonderful advisor and mentor, being able to meet with him and review the work that was in front of me for the week, and then also to recap what we had done, what the success rate was on different promotions that we were doing in different stores, learning how to lead a team of people. And, I think that's one of the things that is so important, to realize you lead people and you manage assets. And in my position, I learned what the assets were in the various stores, but I also learned a lot about the people that were working in the various departments, whether it was children's clothing or women's clothing or shoes or cosmetics or fragrance. There are all the different departments that are in a department store. It could have been tools. It could have been patio furniture. It could be appliances. But you learn how to use those assets and how to lead people to a successful event.
And that aligns so well with one of our core principles of leadership, which is caring. If you care about the people that you're leading, if they know that you care about them and they trust you, it all aligns into your mission. Then everyone believes in the mission, is on the same team, and is willing to move forward and do a great job and accomplish great things. And I know that you, with your mentor and with caring about your team of people, that was probably a great experience.
It was a wonderful experience for me, and it helped me with what I needed as far as expanding my experiences, to have that appreciation for leading people. And that in turn helped me as I began my own business, as I worked with retail companies and other companies and market position. I always think consumer economics, which is the broader field of merchandising and marketing, is so interesting to find out what motivates people, why they make the choices that they make, and what they return to as far as their purchase patterns go. And, that's not that unlike what you see happening with the political realm, how people make the decisions of the people that they're going to support, why they stick with those decisions, why they would choose to change their mind. It is it's a very similar thing. And you mentioned about caring for people. I like to tell my team that nobody cares what I have to say unless they know I care about them.
Yes, I think that there is an old Will Rogers quote that is very similar to that, and it very much rings true, and I know that it did for General Franks in his career. I am very much on board with your consumer economics and understand how that would drive decision making, even for people in the political arena.
Hello, this is Jay Zacharias with the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute and Museum, and I would like to tell you about one of our partner sponsors. His name is Justin Krieger, and he has worked as an independent insurance agent at Krieger Insurance Agency in his hometown of Hobart, Oklahoma since 1999. Justin is honored to help with the annual Celebration of Freedom event and has been a board member for the General Tommy Franks Leadership Institute and Museum for many years. He is also a fifth-generation farmer and rancher in Kiowa County, where cattle, crops, and even insurance is sold with a handshake. Give him a call at 580-726-3076 or come by the office if you would like to speak with Justin Krieger or Kathy Lankford about insurance. We are thankful to our customers and friends who have supported us through the years. Again, Justin would like to say how honored he is to live in such a great country and how proud he is to help sponsor these podcasts. Please enjoy the rest of this podcast experience from your friends at Krieger Insurance Agency.
So you had your own business, the retail marketplace, media, and were very involved in consumer economics. And then you went to work for the Tennessee film, entertainment, and music business. So did you continue with your business while you were working for Tennessee film, entertainment, and music?
Yes, indeed. I had been a part of a governor's campaign, and in looking at, he came to me and he said, "What would you like to do in the administration?" He was putting his cabinet and his senior team together. And having done some work with people in the entertainment industry, and of course, when you look at Tennessee, you've got more movies and TV shows and music that is produced in Tennessee than just about anywhere else in the country. Indeed, we have more songwriters than anywhere else on the face of the earth. And we needed to reorganize that division of state government. It had primarily just been a film office. But of course, right in the mid-90s, you had the transition from analog to digital, recording, production, transmission, and things were really beginning to be digitized. They were moving online. The internet was growing, and we needed to take that office and make it film, entertainment, music, and interactive technologies, which is the project that I led the state through. And we were quite successful. We recruited about $4 billion of infrastructure so that Tennessee became not just a location, but it became a destination for TV production, videos, music studios, things of that nature. Tennessee was at the forefront of that change. And I left that position and entered the race for state senate, and truly enjoyed my service in the state senate. And it was a big primary. There were 7 people in that primary race for the state senate. I won that, and the state senate district was a solidly Republican district. And so my general election was not as competitive as my primary had been.
This is a wonderful transition, and I can see why you would encourage our students to grab every opportunity, because these are some really great opportunities and you really went with them and did an outstanding job. As you said, there's no place more involved in the film, entertainment, and music business than Tennessee. It's the hub of everything, and hats off to you for reworking that program. And then going in as a leader to the state senate, and I know that in reading your bio, you have some really realistic solutions. You're a great problem solver, and that's what leaders do. And what we share with our students is that the better you become at solving problems, the more problems you get, which is a great thing because you're able to be realistic and look at things in a common sense way of putting it together. Can you share that? And I know that you were very instrumental in prohibiting tax law, so I think this is a great time to share that story.
Of course it does. When I was in the state senate, we had a governor, the governor that I had helped get elected. And as he began his second term, he decided that he was going to propose a state income tax. And what we knew was that he had made a promise, I had made a promise that we would not support a state income tax. And so how important it was to keep my word. I thought it was vitally important once I had told people I would not support a state income tax, to keep my word. So that I did. And I led the opposition to the governor's proposal for a state income tax. It was a 4-year fight, not 4 hours or 4 days or 4 weeks or 4 months, but 4 full years that we battled over a state income tax in Tennessee. And I led that opposition the entire time. And as we were finishing that fight, and as we had finally defeated that state income tax, I was in the middle of a race to go, which I won, a big primary again, and I won that primary and went to the U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and that was a really big race. But here's one of the things that I took from that, because many times I was the only one in the state Senate. Now, I was the only Republican female in the state Senate, but many times I would be the only one speaking out in opposition to a state income tax in that body of the state House, state Senate. Getting my all of my positions confused here, but it was and I had one of my state Senate colleagues who gave an interview at one point, and they said, well, nobody agrees with Marsha. She's just a caucus of one. And I like to say that hurt my feelings for about 5 minutes. And then I realized I might be a caucus of one in that state Senate chamber with those 33 members. But once I walked out of that building, that state capitol, I had tens of thousands, indeed hundreds of thousands of Tennesseans who were supporting me in that fight to defeat the imposition of a state income tax. And they stuck with me. They showed up. They would rally with me against imposition of that tax. And together we defeated it. And how important a lesson that was to me, to just stand strong, and how important it is when you're standing on principle not to cave, just to go ahead and stand for what you believe in.
And what a wonderful testimony and example to character. I think that character, we always ask our students, of the 4 principles of leadership, caring, communication, common vision, and character, which is the most important and why? And I always tell them there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just looking for their thoughts, just to encourage them to think about those 4 core principles. And character is often chosen as one of the most important, but it's always interesting to listen to what they have to say and why. But character, I think, is absolutely a must in those principles. And you certainly shared with your Tennessee citizens what your character was when you stood up for this, because you said it, and you said, this is what I said. I believed in it when I said it. And so 4 years is a very long, it sounds very exhausting. I can only imagine how tough that was to get through that 4 years. And
yeah, it was tough because you had the press supporting the income tax. You had the media doing a lot of the work for both the Republicans that were supporting it and the Democrats that were supporting it. You had all the big groups like the teachers union. They were all supportive of the tax. You had the state employees. They were supportive of the tax because they all believed they were going to get more money if they could take more of the taxpayers' money and bring it into the state coffers. But, that is one of those fallacies that you see play out time and again. You can look at some of the states that have the highest rate of taxation, and they are running up debt faster than states like Tennessee that have a balanced budget, that have a smaller state government, that have more of the responsibility at the local level with your cities and counties, and states that believe in leaving money with the taxpayer in their pocket so that they can make the decisions on how to use that money.
It's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I wanted to make sure that we noted how important character was in that 4-year battle and how important it was to you. And you led us into your win of the Tennessee 7th Congressional District. And you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yes, indeed. And as you talk about character, one of the components in public service in DC that I have told people is you may not always agree with me, but you will always know where I stand. And for your students, as they look at that strength of character and having people know that they are trustworthy, that they are going to be forthright, that they're going to be committed and principled, all of which go into a strong and resolute character. I told people as I ran for that congressional seat that they would not always agree with me, but they would always know where I stood. And my team and I have worked very hard to make certain that we communicated with people. Indeed, I do a weekly newsletter. I'm active on social media so that people know what my positions are and know what I'm thinking and have some insight into my deliberative process. And it is so reassuring to me when I meet someone and they say, Marsha, I've never bothered to reach out because I could always figure out how you were going to vote on important issues and issues that are important to the state.
Yes, and that follows our core principle of communication, making sure that everyone understands exactly what needs to happen and when it needs to happen, and then common vision, sharing the communication to create a common vision for those to understand where you are on something so they don't have to reach out. They already know, do I agree or do I disagree? And maybe if I disagree, I have an opportunity to reach out and understand, or have an opportunity just to understand. So I think it's really important, and this is to follow all 4 core principles. So do you want to share, you're now a U.S. Senator, and do you want to share that story real quickly? I know your time is limited and I don't want to take advantage.
Yes. One of the things that I think is so important for young people that are interested in public service, they many times will say, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to major in political science, and then I want to work for somebody who is in elective office. But I like to tell them to expand their world, to go out and get some great experience in whatever they want to have a career in. It could be healthcare, it could be sales, it could be retail, it could be education, it could be law. There are all these wonderful things that they may want to do. And a representative government needs to have people from all walks of life. That's what has functioned so well for our government, for our democratic republic, is that you have people who could be an engineer or a teacher or somebody in the ministry or somebody who owns a small business, but they bring that set of experiences to the table to look at the laws under which each of us are going to live, and then look at how that affects us. So I think it is vitally important to have that set of experiences. And I think it is important for young people to not narrow their field of opportunities, but to expand that field of opportunities.
You know, one of the things that I always do towards to conclude the podcast is ask, what would you like to share with our students? And you have just done that for me so beautifully by sharing what you would recommend to our students and our listening public. And thank you so much. This is such a great amount of wonderful information. And I know that you have mentioned you have some great mentors. I've had some leaders say, make sure that you have a mentor, and you have. And so is there anything additional you want to say to conclude the podcast?
I would just encourage them to find a mentor and ask that mentor to help them. They should never hesitate to ask someone if they could shadow them, if they could learn from them. And then as they're learning from somebody, they need to be looking to see who they can help. You learn from a mentor, but you learn also by mentoring others.
Absolutely. And I know that some of our great leaders have said, one of our great people that I had the opportunity to interview, John Lynch, said that around the dinner table at night, his parents would ask, what was great? Tell us a good thing about your day. And then they always said, and who did you lift up today? In addition to what great happened to you, how did you reach out and lift someone else up? As a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's so important, not to be the only one climbing the ladder, but allowing, reaching out to help others to climb with you.
That's exactly right. And that goes right back to where we started this podcast with what my parents taught us, is to give back more than you take and to leave things in better shape than you found them.
And I would say you are doing just that and following your parents' advice to a T, and offering some great advice as well to our students and listeners. Thank you so very, very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
The Labar family is a fourth-generation Oklahoma family. That may not sound like a long time, but our grandfathers were born here, within the Comanche Nation, before the land runs. We are the proudest sponsor of the Tommy Franks 4-Star Leadership Podcast. We hope listeners will heed the words of these distinguished men and women who have served our country at the highest levels and across all walks of life.
Thank you again to REI Oklahoma for making this podcast possible. For nearly 40 years, the board, staff, patrons, and supporters of the nonprofit economic development REI Oklahoma are committed to expanding Oklahoma's economic prosperity, earning the reputation of being one of the most comprehensive economic development organizations in the country. Business loans, training workshops, business consulting, and networking opportunities, as well as technical assistance and even commercial business space, are made available to Oklahoma entrepreneurs and small businesses. For low and moderate income individuals and families, down payment and or closing cost assistance is offered. Learn more at reiok.org. This has been the 4-Star Leadership Podcast. Now it's your turn, 4-Star listeners. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, and tune in next month for our next episode that airs every last Friday each month. Go be great.